Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes Bull. People might yet win it here for Wolves. Flash in the shot. What a goal! For you in all its magnificence.
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Wolves Fancast. We are back, just like Wolves were yesterday. Joining me tonight, we've had a swatch around. I've got Joao in the punditing chair instead of on the hosting chair, and we've also got Stu. Boys, it's another bloody win for the Wanderers, isn't it? I'm buzzing. Stu, how are you feeling? I was going to say, how are you feeling on the coach home, but
yeah, my excitement levels got too much, and well, when I looked at what actually happened, I mean, I started sweating like really badly for no reason whatsoever, and I looked it up, and it was like there is certain moments where you can get too excitable, and it like your body reacts like it's a panic attack. So I ended up taking my tops off and just sitting there with my shirt over me like a towel, with the aircon blasting on me to fix me. But an hour later, I was fine. But to be fair, we did say on Friday that we'd absolutely smash them to pieces. Eventually, when things were fair, we did. So everyone's a winner.
Exactly. Well, we'll talk about the game. Big thanks to everyone who's tuned in live on YouTube. Already got some comments coming in regarding the refereeing, which I feel that we're probably going to spend a healthy amount of time on your favourite Australian, Stu. And we've also got Fancast contributor Josh Lem as well. So Love Island and Fancast time. What a Sunday. You've got hot, attractive people who can barely really, talk to one another.
And you got Love Island.
Exactly. You stole my line, and we've got Hayley coming in already with Evening Lads and Stew.
Well, hang on a minute. What's that mean?
I'm just surprised that you picked up on that, because that's like the fourth time she said that.
Well, I'm some kind of ethereal being. I'll take it.
So you're like a godlike creature above all, worshipping in the land of Deutsch.
Yeah.
Well.
King D.
Yeah.
No.
Still one of my genuine favourite moments from this season. And bearing in mind, we have beaten Liverpool 3-0 and had a dramatic comeback in the last week. That is still a standout core memory for me, which probably doesn't say a lot about our season. Let's talk about the game. We do usually kind of go through the whole lineup malarkey, but there isn't a huge lot to talk about apart from Pedro Neto, I guess, coming back on the bench, because I think it's sort of the team we're expecting, really.
Yeah, I was kind of intrigued if it would be like 4-4-2 again, but it was almost like a hybrid thing with Nunes playing more of a left-sided midfielder / left foot of a front three at times, and it was all. Well, we never really got a chance to see exactly what it was meant to be because of what happened. But yeah, it was. I don't think Neto would get anywhere near. I thought it was like a token gesture kind of thing that he was. Let's throw him in and then we'll see what happens. But I never expected him to come off the bench in the same vein with Joao GOALmes as well. He looks fit enough in the videos, and he said himself that he's ready to play, and he's unveiling one. So, but I thought, well, he might have like 10 minutes at the end if we're comfortable, just to give him a bit of a run around. But didn't expect that.
No, not quite. I mean, the only, I guess, standout thing across both lineups is actually on Southampton sides. Ainsley Maitland-Niles wearing the number 3. Are we having that, guys?
Well,
He's playing fullback-ish, wasn't he? So
yeah, so I know he can play. Yeah,
but yeah, no, it's one for the modern football numbers, isn't it? So
yeah,
I know some people get annoyed by it. I'm not naming names, Gully, but
yeah.
it's one of them. It's just like whatever.
Everyone needs to have a number.
Yeah, exactly.
Just it's still jarring. Some numbers still kind of feel that they need to be in relatively certain positions. And to be fair, he does float, doesn't he? He is quite a versatile player, so I will let him off. And also, he's not a Wolves player, which is, I was going to say, a bit of a shame because he basically nearly signed for Wolves and then he got called to England. From memory, that's a true sliding doors moment. He scored in like the Community Shield final penalty. And I think that kind of just raised his stock 3 million too high for Wolves to go for. I'm in a way, I'm half avoiding talking about this game because it wasn't a particularly great football match. If you take away the last, the ending of it, it wasn't a game necessarily of the highest quality, was it, Stu?
I mean, they went about it in the way that the genius that is Nathan Jones said that they were going to do. And he said that he told us all that his teams were the most aggressive in Europe, apparently. And it was as scrappy as anything. And you think, well, are they trying to deliberately ruin the game? And especially, I know they got a bit of stick on at the game as well as on Twitter after with Sarabia and Cunha, but it was almost like welcome to England kind of situation where the pace and the physicality seemed to completely pass them by for the first half, first 25 at least, especially. But it's to be expected, and they've had playing Liverpool's a bit different because it's not exactly the hardest thing in the world to do at the minute, and they're not going to be going at you like that, and they give you a bit of space. But I don't know what it was, other than the fact that they had so many newbies that we couldn't even pronounce last week. Well, I couldn't pronounce last week, or even really know about. And maybe that was the curveball that kind of threw them, because we haven't set up like that very often under Lopetegui, have we? It seemed like he's admitted in the past when he's got it wrong, but it was just so scrappy and bitty and not in a fun way. And it was almost like the sending off was inevitable at some point, obviously not half hour into the game, but it seemed so bad. And that was down to everyone's favourite Australian referee. And the tone he set, booking people straight away from borderline bookings, but to not even speak to them and just cards out straight away. It just seemed like he was on a power trip yesterday. And he was the one who was centre stage from the start rather than both teams. It was weird.
Yeah, let's talk about Jared, because yeah, you're right. I mean, even if we go to like the first Lamina challenge, I'm still not. I mean, am I being too biased when I say I don't see how it's really a yellow card? He comes a bit, I guess, downwards, but I was shocked to see it get a yellow card quite so early on.
Yeah, it was. I think for me, you can't really argue. It was one of them where it's either a yellow or it's not a yellow. It's not a bad decision to give him a yellow card for that, because it was. He went in with a bit of power, a bit of force behind the challenge, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. And he caught him. So when that happens, you're running the risk. Did any of their players get booked for the same challenge later on? No, of course they didn't. And that was the problem. And the fact that you're looking back now, and when we watched Match of the Day earlier on this morning, he's so fast to get that yellow card out. It was the kind of, we'll come into the second one in a bit, but it was like how aggressive he was, like handing it out, like straight away. It was like, well, what are you doing? He hasn't done anything in the whole game. Obviously, there's the storyline behind Lamina anyway in Southampton, but he hadn't done anything wrong. It was his first challenge. It was just mistimed. The guy didn't get injured. If you're going to book him, then fine. But to run up to him like that and just stand there like some kind of pompous fool and hand it, like, there was something very Nazi about it. It was really odd why he chose to do it that way. And it riled everyone up.
Yeah, and I think game management must be such a fine and tricky balance for a referee. And I'm probably the most, I guess, lenient Fancasti in terms of some of the more human side of refereeing, because you're right. It's not a surprise that it's given as a yellow, that sort of challenge. I don't personally think it was, because it was a bit of force behind it because he's a physical player, but he's nowhere like, we're not really going anywhere. He's not prevented an attack. He's not seriously injured him. But I think what all football fans crave is that consistency from referees. It's like, well, if you give a foul for that, you should give a foul for this challenge. If you give a yellow card for this tackle, you should give one to that. And then when you don't see it consistently laid out, and I guess that's where the old game management and refereeing, in terms of, the old one was, you get the first one free, because otherwise you do have the opportunity, the potential, as Dean Marston says in the comments, after 35 minutes, it could easily have ended 9v9. And I know it's up to the players to control themselves. They're quite literally in control of themselves. But the refs got to do something to make sure that the game carries on. And if Semedo gets booked as well, I do think that was a yellow card personally, but it's already nitty bitty. And then Lamina thinks he's got fouled, and so do two of his other teammates. I think Neves and Sarabia, maybe.
Matinho.
Or is it Matinho?
Yeah.
And then Lamina, Jafo, does the horrific act of what I believe was described as running aggressively to 5 yards away from the referee to tell him that where he'd been pulled down.
Yeah, I gotta say, I was terrified myself. I didn't know how he didn't piss his pants on the fucking field. It's pathetic. Pathetic, isn't it? The reasoning is pathetic. And what gripes me the most about it is that I see all these fucking bullshit. It's the same as the Liverpool thing again with the VAR, and you get all these fucking referee lovers come out on Twitter supporting it,
stick into them,
and I love it because they say, they want to see a change and they're happy to see a change. Then I mean, I'm fine for it. I'm fine if you want to clamp down on stuff like this, but you do not do it in February. You do it at the start of the season, so it's consistent. You can't be sending people off now in a season when you've already played 6 months. 6 months worth of fixtures where somebody could have been booked. Which a yellow card changes a game enough, let alone a red card. It can change the whole tempo of a game and the way a player plays. So how can you have it where you want to say, okay, they're enforcing this rule at this point in the season? It's like saying, okay, everything before doesn't matter. It's utterly bizarre, and like you say, it's as a decision, it's crazy. I can't understand the referee's reasoning. Okay, yeah, he's run to him, he's moaning about it, but the thing is, 2 minutes later, so there were 6 or 7 Southampton players run at the referee to complain about a decision. And I think we aren't so much annoyed about the actual nature of it more than the inconsistencies of it, because that's the problem. Is there's always inconsistencies with refereeing until they can stamp out, this bullshit, like black and white level that they've got without being consistent. Then we're never going to move forward together.
Well, I think you just said the exact words, but in a different way. It's black and white. Is Jared a bit racist? We can't say, but there's no coincidence, is there? The way he was behaving yesterday. I know we joked about it, and Luke put a thing about melanin on Twitter, and there's a few people putting the Family Guy race card thing up again. But you look at the tactical camera view from where he cards Lamina. He's got Neves and Matinho there in his ears. Doesn't do a thing. And like he said in his interview afterwards, like Neves, he said he could have booked either of us. But Lamina, he's on the edge of the penalty area. He turns around and he books him as he's running towards him. Now, that is not a rule in any way, shape or form. In any part of the law does it say you cannot run at a referee. And when Neves is saying he didn't say anything, why would he lie? When they're mic'd up, he's going to have to put his report in. We'll probably get the details tomorrow on this, exactly why it happened, like they always do on Monday mornings. But it's just ridiculous. I mean, and how he booked Semedo was the same way, completely over the top, forceful. When he booked Ait Nouri, he trotted over the pitch. He didn't run. It's just a slight hand in the air. And it's just, well, there's clearly something going on here because that's not normal behaviour. And I know we talk about conspiracies all the time, and yet again, it's some weird refereeing decision going against Wolves for what seems like the 7th or 8th time this season, and the 3rd in 4 weeks. Why? Because we spoke out about these things. That this stuff's stupid, and then the thing that happens at Brighton get a goal disallowed that's not even offside. Oh, why? Because Brighton are pushing for the European places. What a surprise! You know what I mean? There's so much bullshit going on, and they can't keep going away with it. I know it's good that Howard Webb's come out and he's apologised to Brighton and he's apologised to Arsenal. He apologised to us for something that doesn't make any sense. Why? It's completely baffling, and I'm not saying every week it's all corrupt and bent, but there's something seriously not right about that whole situation. I know that they brought it up on Match of the Day as well, saying how does that happen? That's not even a rule. That's not even a law of the game. He didn't do anything wrong, and he got booked for it. Doesn't make any sense.
I was trying to think of where to kind of go from there because I can't agree with like 90% of what he's saying, which makes me kind of feel a bit dirty, to be honest, Stu. No, you're right. Like, it's just so frustrating. More to the point, imagine how many times Neves would get sent off a season. He's already a good one.
Exactly.
He's already a good one to have on a bet builder for a booking. And don't get me wrong, you know, there is a way to approach a referee and stuff like that. And you look at, you know, good boy Matinho and how he talks to, you know, how he gets away with them compared to, you know, pull it back to someone like Joey Barton or whatever, who, you know, would just get a yellow card for looking at a ref and stuff like that. Just when you sort of see it live, it's so bewildering. And you know what? I could understand it if Lamina's like swore at him or whatever.
Yeah, no problem at all.
No problem. But it's a straight red. The fact that he's gone for like the double second, it's like, really? And again, to be able to enforce that at that point in the game, at this point in the season, and they, you know, I saw one of those Twitter support ref BS accounts because they seem to have cropped up out of nowhere, and they are bizarre. It is a echo chamber that I am bewildered by. Now, you know, I think one of them said, "Oh, they're clamping down. They're clamping down on it." And if you said, as you said, Joe, why are you clamping down in? We've played 20 plus games of the season. And also, that's one referee. If it was across the board this weekend, and they dished like, and you can't. Let's say, I don't know, something silly like 5 players got sent off for dissent this weekend. You know what? It wouldn't happen again. I'd get it, but for it just to be, oh, this, you know, one ref is pushing this one certain rule, I don't know how that sits with me if it's not properly done. And you know, you can't. I'm not against refs having a bit of license and a bit of wiggle room. I know, like you know, I kind of moaned on about having consistent refs. If you have refs who take a interpretation of the rules, fine, but then they should be accountable and be able to articulate why they've done that. Because at the end of the day, again, one of these Twitter accounts, I think Matt Guy, got in an argument with them on Twitter, and he said, "It doesn't matter, you won." Yeah, but we don't have Lamina at the weekend now.
Yeah.
We didn't have him for 60 minutes. That's not, well, I was going to say, that's our outfield players who have had to do an extra bit of running, and they worked their bollocks off second half. And don't get me wrong, it got rewards, but there's going to be some tired legs this morning from it. And I don't know. Referees going in the bin at the moment for me.
Well, the fact that that entire argument just breaks down because nothing happened in the second half, and there was tackles in the second half that was way worse than in the first, and they didn't even get booked. So the whole argument's just null and void that straight away. Because so then you said, oh no, because he was too far in the first half, then you accommodate in the second. No, that's not the rule, is it? If you want to clamp down, you clamp down throughout the whole game. And like Dean said there, it could have been 9 against 9 in the first half. Yeah, if he'd have followed through with what he started in that game, it should have been 9 versus 9, and it was almost like that chaos in that friendly in the winter and at the start of the season as well. But then, do we let the 2 players come back on again because it doesn't count? It was as farcical as that, because the second half was not refereed in the same way as the first. So that any argument them bellends have got on there completely breaks down straight away.
Do you want a bit of a conspiracy theory, Stu? So we've had a few people on the YouTube comments talking about it. So I'll pick a couple. But it happened in the Villa game as well. Ruben Diaz got sent off for running over to a referee, as Wolfade89 says. But do you know who was on VAR, Stu?
I know.
You know, let's move away from referee, because.
But if you watch how he ran at the referee, though, he deserved to be booked. That's the difference.
Yeah,
he ran with his head down like a bull. He was like, well, you're going to get booked for that.
Oh, yeah. DS is good for it, though.
Yeah,
quite often he'll run 40, 30 yards to get in an argument with the ref.
Yeah, we ain't got a problem with them doing it and enforcing the rule. But when someone doesn't do anything, that's when it gets to you.
Mind boggles. Let's talk about the Southampton goal, because it kind of, I don't know, and showed what the first half was about, because it wasn't a great goal to concede from Wolves. It was sloppy. It felt like a championship goal, which.
That'd be good for them. It's good practice for next season.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think you're right. It was a bit sloppy. It was a shot out of the dark. You know, there was no real anybody was really having a run of play in the game, and it's a great strike. And he's lucky it's hit the inside of the post to go past Sarr. But it's one of those, that happen in football games, and it doesn't matter if you're Man City or you're Southampton. That they come out of the blue, and you got to put your hands up and say, "Oh, it's a clean strike. He's done well." But if he tried that another 99 times out of 100, I don't think he'd do it ever again.
No, but I mean, more annoyingly, they were probably good for it at that point as well, because we kind of, and rightly so, kind of feeling a bit sorry for ourselves. And it was almost a case of, let's just calm down a bit and let's not get anyone else sent off. And then, like I said, out Nuri's challenge and whatever. But yeah, it was almost like, as soon as it went in, let's just get to half time. Get to half time at 1-0 and regroup, because we just weren't in it first half at all. I mean, the last 15, you can't blame them for not being at it, because we've seen what happens before when, again, half of this team were there when Raul's head broke. And it affects people, and an unjust sending off is going to roll people up, and they're going to start doing stupid things. And the shape was completely lost. There was no the passing was completely all over the place. But again, you can't really moan that much, because it was an injustice.
Yeah, it did. It seemed to really hit them in terms of that mentality. It took them to go until half time, didn't it, to kind of get their head straight. And again, it wasn't all the losing the man, because we weren't at the levels that I think we've expected under Lopetegui. But if there's one thing we know about Lopetegui, he loves a half-time break, because yet again, and a couple of subs at half-time just to try and tweak things. And I think it showed the chasm between him and someone like Nathan Jones, if we're being honest, in terms of, the tactical outmaneuvering that, you can't just bring it right back down to, I was going to say right back down to basics, which I think was Nathan Jones's idea of how to win a football match, because he just have some of the best stats in Europe, of course. So it just took, Europa League winning coach Lopetegui to see what happened. But anyway, halftime subs again, big impact, guys.
As always, I think the main point that you say about Nathan Jones and what he's done as doing at Southampton, and he can't do what Lopetegui does, is down to our good investment. There's not many teams. I'd argue that we've got the best bench there at the weekend out of anyone in the bottom half of that table, and we've got the ability to change a game. We've got the ability to actually. If it ain't going the way it was, we're going well, we can bring a couple of really good players on, as we keep saying, and we keep going on about it, we keep saying it feels good to be a proper team again.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing is we're so happy to be able to have such good players to be able to impact the game.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he's got his very notable flaws, but to bring on Darmstadt at half time and bring on Bueno, it was just like shifting, like we're just going for more pace. Let's really try and peg them back and see what they're about. But again, you look at the other players that we have, and it almost feels like, again, another masterstroke in bringing on Diego Costa on the hour mark as well, where we were doing all right after half time, but just having that slightly different focal point up front from Cunha, it was almost like we just switched on. It was like we gained two players when Diego Costa came on. Sean Crow says in the comments, and I think this is a fantastic way to sum it up with Lopetegui. He doesn't just make changes; he makes right changes.
Yeah, and
it's
I think
like every time.
So more than going back to the halftime ones, more than trial rate, he was having just let's not take a risk now. Let's just take Nuri off. He's already on a booking anyway. He hasn't necessarily been overexposed, but he hasn't had a chance to get forward. But let's just do the right thing. We know the delivery that Bueno's got anyway from Palace. But yeah, I mean, what was it on when Costa came on the hour mark?
It was literally on the hour.
Yeah, so they were absolutely shit themselves when he came on. But it was, like I've said before about him, we know that he's not the same player. And he's a bit of a joker and he's there for the bants. But it seemed like every single player on that pitch in a teal shirt at last was lifted as soon as he came on the pitch, because he didn't really do much, but he was a battering ram. And he just bullied them to pieces, and they had no answer to it. And he looks fitter than he has for a while as well. He doesn't look. He's a big guy anyway. You can see that, but he doesn't look overweight anymore. He looks fitter, and just his sheer strength, his upper body strength was it. And he was tearing them apart.
Did it almost feel like that scene in Rogue One, Stu? When just Darth Vader, like they know Darth Vader's coming, and they are just all rigging it, and it's just he is gonna go on a rampage.
I knew exactly what you were gonna say, because it is. I mean, we can't be very Diego Costa, Darth Vader. Someone make that, please. But yeah, it was. I mean, it was almost like the thought of Diego Costa was more terrifying than the actual truth, and they were all over the place.
Yeah, and again, all three goals were a bit sloppy, but this genuinely might. The only way I can describe it is it deserves to be on a Danny Baker VHS, doesn't it? Let's be honest. So, for anyone who hasn't seen it, it was scrappy. It was, as I say, Diego Costa's involved. Adama Traore actually does really good bit of work to kind of shift his space. Actually gets his shot off, gets it on target, and then Jan Bednarak forgets how his legs work.
It's so much stick from the Southampton fans. They already hate him enough, but now that he's almost consigned them to relegation, he's like literal patient zero of that team. And the one thing I quite liked, I hadn't seen that video that you just posted, but I think Craig Dawson celebrated that goal more than his own that he scored last week. He was pumping. Oh, look at him as he runs forward. His arms are going like crazy.
He gets a move on there.
He's loving life.
Amazing. I've not spotted that until now. Like if they weren't already terrified at the prospect of Diego Costa and then the goal, I mean, Southampton just looked drained, didn't they? It was, part of me emphasises the wrong word, but I've been as a Wolves fan literally this season when you concede that goal, maybe against like Palace this season, where you go, they must have gone, we're going to lose this. This has got a sense of inevitability about it. But Wolves definitely weren't done. Again, we talk changes, and 70th minute mark, just before the goal, just before Wolves equaliser, Joao, that boy GOALmes, comes on, and I don't think anyone was really expecting him to necessarily play all that much. But it was, again, it was sort of like one of those. Oh, they just wanted more energy. They wanted someone who, it felt like we were just going to go for broke. And hey, you know what? The difference between us losing 1-0 and 2-0 is nothing. Us getting goals here is going to make the difference. And again, he lived up to the billing, and part of me was a bit scared because there's been so much fanfare about him, and I didn't want him to be shit. But do you know? Because it felt like so much of this had been sort of marketed, and a lot of it was marketed by fans. Don't in terms of free Joao GOALmes movement. But again, he just looks a player, doesn't he? It's the only way I can describe it.
He looks about 28 years old. He's how he holds himself, how he moves, how confident he is, how he's just totally switched on. And happy birthday, by the way, today, if you're watching. I'm sure you are. But he looks like he's been playing football at the top flight, in the top flight for the best part of 10 years. He's so composed on the ball, and his football intelligence is. I mean, I can't believe he's even here. Just watching that cameo. I mean, we're not being going over the top here. So for someone to come into a different country, who admittedly himself doesn't really speak that much English, which is not really a problem for us, but still. He's had no acclimatization time at all compared to the other two that I mentioned earlier, and he's just slotted straight in there, like he's always been part of it.
Yeah, bang on. It was class, and it was the nature in which he played his game. Like you said, it was good with confidence. He strolled up and down the pitch like a Rolls Royce.
Yeah,
he literally covered all the grass like he'd been here and playing here for months. We all know how different the Premier League is and how much harder it is physically on somebody's body. And no offense to the Brazilian league, but that ain't it. You know what I mean? That ain't it, that league. And it's impressive. And we'll get onto the goal in a minute, but even that, there was just a self-assurance, even after the first one was blocked, that he had the confidence to say, okay, I'll do it again. I'll do it again. And we're just some great players now, and I've got so much happiness and confidence in the team again because of one transfer window under Lopetegui. It says everything, doesn't it?
It's bonkers, isn't it? Because all of a sudden now, like when Joao Moutinho inevitably goes in the summer, you'd think it's just like, okay, fantastic servant, and then we go, well, we've got in about 4 players now who are just going to replace him. And you're right, it wasn't, the goal we'll talk about in a sec, but just all the highlight reels you'd seen of him, the tackling, the passing, just everything that you wanted. And bearing in mind, we were at a man disadvantage as well. It wasn't like he'd come in and pick, he had no right to play how he was playing. But the goal, don't get me wrong, Southampton was shite. However the ball came to him, it was fucking awful. And if this was Wolves and Wolves had done that, I'd be pulling my hair out. But they're not. And it was like he just knew what he was going to do. It was like I know Dan tweeted via the Fancast account. It was just like on FIFA just doing a curler, and he got blocked for the first time. Well, no, oh, don't worry, I've now got the space to have an even better shot. Thank you very much. And again, I can't always remember the last time I saw a Wolves midfielder just be that nonchalant in an attacking position.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you kind of think back to Simon Osborne, but obviously we've had players since then. But he's that kind of finish. I know exactly what you mean. From there in that situation to be that calm.
Yeah,
it's been a long. I mean, you might talk about Kevin McDonald maybe.
yeah.
At that level in League One, but
It sounds silly, but I mean, just like take a shot like that because I don't know. Someone like Dave Edwards, who we'd all say, was primed for running into the box late. I can't imagine Dave Edwards doing something like that.
No.
Kevin McDonald, Kevin McDonald's a good shout in terms of just being so cultured with what he was having to do, and he just seems to have a bit of everything, and just the passion after that goal, and having Ruben Neves just scream in his face and him screaming back. I was just living it, and he was in tears afterwards as well. I don't think my little heart could take it much more with that moment.
I mean, going a bit further on at full time, he was in bits.
Yeah,
like he was throwing his arms around like he couldn't believe what had happened, and he was. I mean, I tried to zoom in and like film it and stuff. I know it's a bit spooky, but he was like, it's not about being physically drained. It was like all the emotion had come out all at once after the whole saga of it all. And out of all of them, he seems to completely buy into it all already. It's just magical. I can't. I don't think we've had a player like this so early that has won so many people over, regardless of the thing that the Joao GOALmes stuff. From a little cameo like that, like everyone was just raving about him all the way back yesterday. He was, and rightly so. He was superb.
I mean, the real question is at this point, when's he going to get a statue? Like, let's start forecasting, because we obviously need a new Steve Ball stand. Do we just do it at the same time, save the time and expenses, and just plan ahead? That's all I'm saying. If we just plan ahead, because
I reckon if him and Mario Lemina were at opposite ends and just ran towards each other, they'd probably knock it down.
Yeah,
I reckon they could do it.
Yeah. I think heavy slide tackle from both ends, just demolish it through.
He'll crumple.
Yeah, just crumple in. I almost feel like I've said this into like every game under Lopetegui that we've won, but it feels like just week after week he's just getting I say Wolves career defining results. Like under Nuno, we had in like that first season, like Bristol City. Is that like a real moment for them all to gather around and use it as real, like, say, silly term, but group locomotion for any sports psychology nerds out there. And Bruno never really got that in his tenure. Maybe Villa away was the nearest.
Man United maybe as well.
Yeah. But Lopetegui has already had Everton, Liverpool, and today.
Magic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just magic. What a manager who's actually won trophies can do.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, look at the guy. He's managed Spain. He's managed Real Madrid. He's managed Sevilla. He's took people to cup finals and won. The guy's got pedigree. If you can't follow a man who's actually won trophies and be behind him and be behind his philosophies, then just fuck off, because you're a fucking waster. You know what I mean? The guy knows what he's doing. He wouldn't have been in these positions.
I was going to say, do you copy Gonzalo Guedes into that statement?
Well.
I wasn't going to say his name, but yeah, I mean,
Wasn't
Stu
gonna
probably
make-
would have seen him into that email, you know.
Yeah. They just, I know, there's just togetherness now, and all right. I like to judge as best I can the performances rather than results. And don't get me wrong, the performance weren't there across 90 minutes today in the same way it has been in other games, like Liverpool. But the fact they dug in for that last 45 minutes, when I've spent 4 months of the first half of the season saying this team is dog shit unfit, they cannot play 90 minutes, and you've got a 10-man team who are just busting their gut. I think Match of the Day showed it, the amount of times we had like 5-6 players just in the box second half. And you can't go where the rest of the Wolves players, because how are we covering this? But they've just got a confidence about themselves which we just ain't had in months. And you're right, having a good coach will do that to you. In terms of the league table, because I was going to say at 60 minutes, it wasn't looking particularly great, if I'm going to be honest with you. That obviously it brought Southampton up and things like that, but it's starting to look a hell of a lot rosier, isn't it? We're up to 15th on 23 points. I think it's the first time. It's the first time this season I think we've got more than a point per game. It's the first time this season we've got back-to-back wins. Life's good as a Wolves fan at the moment, isn't it?
I mean, remember when I said, we shared it again earlier, the little comment I made, that by the March international break, we won't even be in any talk of relegation danger, and everyone's, you're being ridiculous and all this stuff. But why would you think any different now? You look at that, and in a week or so, we'll be singing Mind the Gap again, the way it's going, because was that 5-point difference now to them?
Yeah.
We got Bournemouth on Saturday. They've got another couple of hard games coming up. When we're talking about mid-table, yeah, I think mid-table's minimum now. I think top half is obviously in a fanciful outside kind of wishful thinking, but why not? The way everyone banded together in that second half yesterday, it reminded me a bit like when Man City came back against Spurs a few weeks ago, and they had no right getting anything out of that game, and just came back and steamrolled as Man City will do. It reminded me kind of like that. Obviously not from a quality point of view, but just from a mentality that we are not going down without a fight, and everyone was in on it. And he's obviously paid with his job now, and probably rightly so for it. I mean, when he said what he said, however mentally it sounded, where 10 men helped us. I mean, he did, because it brought the whole Wolves against the world siege mentality back. The fact that they should never have lost against 10 men playing for 10 men for an hour of a 90-minute game is by the by, but it did bring everyone together, and it was that whole thing of, yeah, we've been wronged here, we're going to sort it out, and we're going to beat you. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah. And it wasn't a fluke, and it wasn't, it's one of them things. Yeah, we had a couple of scrappy goals, but we forced them goals to go in by sheer bombardment of their box and their goals, which, other than Sarr, without wonder save at the end from that ridiculous Ward-Prowse free kick, he didn't really have that much to do, which is mental.
No, I think he did really well with the Kilman fuck up as well. With that little touch. But I think you said it well there, Stu. The thing is, although we only had 10 men, and we were talking about it a minute ago, how many people got forward, under Bruno Lage and even under Nuno, how many times you could probably count on one or two fingers the amount of games where we're getting 5 or 6 people into a box. Yeah. We're working as a team, we're working for each other, everyone's fighting for each other. It feels like a family again. And it's that, I know they like to band around that sort of like pack mentality sort of thing. It is on the pitch now, and everyone's moving forward up the pitch together, and everyone's moving back. And when you got a football club where everyone's singing on the same hymn sheet and everyone's buying into the mentality, then it's easy, because a problem shared is a problem halved. And I know it's a common thing to say is it is, because everyone helping each other makes the game a fucking hell of a lot easier.
Mm.
And the problem is with Southampton, and what I saw yesterday was it was a team of individuals.
Mm-hmm.
People like Shay Adams come on, they play for themselves.
Yeah, they looked broken as a football team, Southampton. Like, yeah, the ball's winning goals. When you got two players going for the same ball, and just like, Sunday league, you get annoyed at it, let alone at Premier League level. And whereas Wolves, they just seem organised, they seem hungry for it, and they seem, I know they've got the tactical nows, but they've also got like the emotional levels that are needed as well. And we talk a lot about how Molyneux's not being great, and the fans aren't really feeling it anymore. But it's through performances like this where just all of a sudden that mentality in the fans, and the fans have bought into it now, the players have bought into it, and it feels that real sort of sense of momentum, which has definitely been lacking. And despite how good we were up until literally this time last season with Bruno, we'd never kind of felt that, which is a bit strange for a number of reasons. But we're on this year now, and there is still a lot of football to be played. Don't get me wrong, but the fact that we've put a bit of breathing space, even between us and Everton for now, and even particularly like Bournemouth and Southampton, just it's becoming less and less worrisome, and sort of seeing how high, how near to mid-table we can get.
I mean, you look at that there, put the table back up again, and he's at 18, 23. Yeah. So if when we beat them next week, that's an 8-point gap to second bottom in the space of 2 months, 3 months.
Well, we've got an 8-point gap on Southampton, and we were bottom after coming back after the World Cup.
Yeah.
That just speaks massive amounts of fucking quality about what they're doing at the club and about what they're achieving. I mean, there's not many teams. I don't know the exact form table. I guess we're probably in the top sort of 6 since the World Cup, I would have thought, in terms of form.
Yeah, I believe we are.
It's incredible. It's such a to have. I know he had a bit of a mini pre-season, but it's only two games they've fucking played.
I think you might have been Andy who put it in the group chat, said that when I made that statement about mid-table top half, he went, yeah, but that's like a Europa League, that's a Conference League form, but this is a Conference League squad, so why wouldn't it be? We've just had absolutely inept nonsense for a year beforehand, so the squad now we've got players who can actually. I mean, that's the thing again. The goals did come from a striker. And it's almost like that whole storyline. We've scored 5 goals in 2 games, and not one's been from a striker again. And it doesn't really matter because, like you said, Rich, the amount of players, bodies in the box we've never had before, which is even the wasters have kind of upped the game a bit.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting comment from Chucky WWFC. Our next fixtures for our rivals are tough, and again, it just feels like just that perception around Molyneux's just changed, hasn't it? And say life's good at the moment. And I've got a few. Yeah,
I was going to say, look at I'm sure that Southampton have got to play Everton soon as well. So they're not only tough, but they're against each other, which is even better. So
I don't know. I think it's going to be an interesting few weeks, but I've at least got that mentality back now as a fan, where I just don't see us losing going into a game.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. Whether it's Bournemouth or Brentford or Brighton or hell, even if we have to play like Man United or whatever, I just go, I think we'll get something. I think Lopetegui will set us up in a way where we can get something in a football match now. Win or draw, and I think the players think that too now. Whereas I don't think they have done for nearly they had done sort of 6+ months last year. Got a couple of questions from Twitter Corner, and one I'm going to raise to you myself. I'm going to do the one for myself first because I'll forget otherwise, as much as anything else. Now, you cutlery draw at home. What order from left to right do you have your knives, forks, and spoons? Because when I was on holiday, the property it had knives, then spoons, and then forks, and that deeply upset me.
Yeah, that's kind of concerning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, mine's a little bit different. Mine's knives, forks, and spoons, but that's only because the knives are a little bit too long for the other ones. And you've got a long one on the left, so it kind of like it's circumstance more than anything. But in reality, you'd want to go forks, knife, spoon.
Yeah.
You know, and then maybe the teaspoons underneath.
Yeah, depending on the shape of the box thing, the organizer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stu, how about you?
Knives, forks, spoons.
Yeah.
Left to right.
Yeah.
Just seems to make sense.
Yeah. And it deeply upset me. Like, and I was trying to work out: do you get fined in an Airbnb property if you change it? I mean, Dino, Dean, friend of the Fancast, Dean Marston's is a forks, knives, spoons man. Connor, however, is a knives, forks, spoons, which
correct way.
I'm not feeling it, because you have forks go on the left and knives go on the right when you put them on a plate. So, or you got them wrapped up in a napkin or fancy. They should go left and right for me.
Yeah, I think that's just your OCD.
Yeah.
So are you going into your drawer? You're opening your drawer and you're getting your knives and forks ready, and then walking in like a little cherub and putting them down. That doesn't make any sense.
This is Rich Hobbs you're talking about. You know?
I think there's a phrase "little cherub." I was like, "You damn know." Well, right. It's like, yeah, no, you can't go knives first. You can't go knives first unless there's a practical reason in terms of the storage situations. Danny P's a spoons, fork, knife, which I can accept. I understand, you know, but I think if you've got, I think we can all agree at the very least, spoons don't belong in the middle.
No.
That's just some weird ass shit.
Yeah, thank you. I decided not to leave that in the in review, and I'm now regretting it, just for lack of parking. Anyway, two other questions from a Twitter Corner. From Tom Kearney, asks which player had the best Wolves debut. Now, I'm going to stretch out. It doesn't need to be necessarily recent batch, because I'm thinking, my immediate thought when we go to players who make an instant impact is Dean Sturridge. It was 4 goals in 2 games, but I think his instant impact, that's pretty solid.
I mean, my first, the came to the top of my head was Ebanks Blake away at Scunthorpe, because we were on a bit of a drought at the time, I think, and he came in and scored on his debut, and he was just a powerhouse. But I don't know why that was the first thing that came to me. TK yesterday as well. He was he went down with Matt to the game. So that's all aside, but yeah, I think Ebanks Blake, other than Joao GOALmes yesterday, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I love it when a centre back comes in and makes a big difference. You know, like Dawson's doing there. But I think I remember when they brought in Mike Williamson. At the time, and he just come in. It was like watching a Premier League player playing like a League One standard team. It was unreal.
Yeah,
and you get that sort of nous and confidence brought to a team. It's nice to watch.
Yeah, definitely agree on the Mike Williamson one. It feels like that reassuring, almost like Craig Dawson is now, where it was just like, okay, Dad's home. We know what the plan is. A couple on the YouTube comments. David Connolly versus Bristol City. Still with the Hwang from last season.
Is that Newcastle?
I think it was Newcastle, yeah.
Oh, no.
And
against Palace.
Yeah, we got 8-0 versus Palace, and also Robbie Keane as well. I think that's always a standout one as well. The other one I had was again from that guy, Matt Guy. Rate Dawson in the small fanfare / sexy signing but massive impact conversation with previous Wolves transfers. I am happy to class this on the, I think we could potentially name it with Dawson scale. I don't know. I'm up for names, but I don't know. In terms of value for money, Premier League wise, let's say for Wolves, where's he ranking for yourselves at the moment?
I mean, he's pushing Lord Bennett. Just he's got to be. I mean, Ryan Bennett came in for a free, and look what he achieved here. Probably the best football of his life. No one really knew it. He was like, why are we going for this guy? And he was a rock for 3 years. Similar to Craddock in a way. I mean, it seems like the easy thing to go with centre halves because they're unassuming and a bit like that. But yeah, I think Dawson has been as solid as anything since he come in. And they highlighted it on Match Today last night as well. Don't they? How he's just his presence there. Like he had a couple of blocks and a clearance, and there was just no danger. He's just there all the time.
Yeah. I mean, he's a player who hasn't played in how many weeks?
Yeah.
He's not played. I don't think he started for West Ham, had he, after the World Cup? And
no,
he don't look like he's missed a beat.
No. Good one in the YouTube comments. Dean Marston, John Ruddy. Wasn't a huge amount of fanfare. I was trying to think of a striker. The best I could think of was Stephen Ward. And I know we've had another one saying Matt Doherty in the comments as well. Yeah. I mean, I guess the difference between Doherty is he didn't necessarily go into the team straight away, whereas we signed Stephen Ward from Ireland for a decent fee, a lot more than Doherty. But he just seemed to start and score and, let's say, make that difference at a time Wolves needed it. Yeah, well, right. It is position dependent as well. Sean says Sarr as well.
Yeah, but there was fanfare from me because I couldn't control myself for weeks.
Yeah. You were like a dog with two dicks for Sarr when he signed.
Yeah, but I'd been banging that drum for 4 years and all.
Yeah.
You had, to be fair.
Yeah, you had championed it for a while. Yeah.
I mean, centre back's always for me. You go back. We've already mentioned Mike Williamson, but Gary Breen when he came in at that point under McCarthy. You even go back a little bit further. You go Polle, people like that, and they've come in on relatively low transfer fees, but they've been cult heroes a lot of the time. And they're ingrained in the Molyneux culture and the DNA of the club.
Yeah, a bit like Super George as well.
Yeah,
we came in with no fanfare because of where he came from, and then developed into a Premier League left back. So you can't ask for much more development than that, really. And he'd say that himself as well.
Yeah. Well, I think going down memory lane is the best way to end any Fancast show. Big thank you to everyone who's tuned in live to watch us, and also who's listening on podcast. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, rate it on iTunes, rate it on Spotify, rate it to your mates as well. I don't mind. Make sure you keep up to date with all things Wolves Fancast at WWFC Fancast. It's not. It's at Wolves Fancast. I'm just living in 2018 perennially. But yeah, make sure you keep up to date with us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for all our Wolves related silliness. Until next time, which I'm guessing will be to preview the Bournemouth match, it's goodbye from Jafo.
Good night.
It's goodbye from Stu.
First, though, you know that how Nathan Jones has rightly been dismissed.
So,
I mean, the writing was on the wall because the bloke, like we spoke about on Friday, that the bloke's a bit tapped in the head, and now they're
going on the sun.
Yeah,
That's what
and
it's the sun.
I mean, if they go for Jesse Marsh, I mean, it'd be like Premier League script writing perfection. But since you did marry a Welsh girl, Rich, would you rather choose your life now or be a washed-up Premier League manager?
And it's goodbye for me. I'll see you next time.